This is Snakes and Otters, a pointless discussion of eternal questions. Get ready. We're about to live in your head rent-free. Hello, Otterites. This is episode 252.
I am Martin.
And I'm Robert.
I'm Francis.
I'm Andre.
And I'm Cajun.
And speaking of Cajun, we are out here at the ranch today in Studio C, enjoying Cajun's hospitality once again. The Imperator is not with us. The Imperator has had an Imperator event, shall we say?
You know,
That's very well put.
the Imperial carriage got sideswiped in Pannonia or Dalmatia or something.
Somewhere in Ohio, so, you know.
Yeah, so
I think somewhere up around Toledo or Wapakoneta.
up on the Rhine frontier somewhere.
That is
on the
Amish
Danube
country.
or whatever, and he's in.
That is Amish country. It might have been all the groupies running up to the
That's
interstate.
true. He didn't say exactly what hit him. One of the
Horse and buggy could have.
buggies could have sideswiped the royal carriage. And anyways, he is currently laid up with the Imperatrix taking care of him, although I don't think she's doing all that well either. I didn't get the details on her injuries. But we are sans the Imperator today, unfortunately. Today, we're doing a Robert kind of episode.
Cool.
Yep.
Because we're talking about the Renaissance today. Now, as I was telling the guys leading into it for show prep, mostly I want to start out with art, but, the Renaissance it's not just art. It's science, it's architecture, it's
Philosophy.
politics, it's philosophy. It's everything. You can't really do the Renaissance without talking about all of these things because the impact is not just in one area. So, but just to start out, I think we need to understand when we're talking about. So, just throw it out there. You guys, give me a time frame you guys think the Renaissance is.
14 to 1600.
That's pretty close.
That's pretty close. Some will actually even put it earlier into the 12 and 1300s, depending on who you're talking to, because the late Gothic era is artistically, anyways, is that when things really start to pick up. You can see it especially in certain artists like Giotto. I don't know if you guys remember from your art history classes, Giotto is the one whose halos look like the paper plates painted gold.
Okay.
You know?
I had
Remember?
forgotten that. But
Yes, that's the defining characteristic of Giotto, because most of the art was religious that was getting done.
So we're talking probably post Crusades.
Oh, absolutely.
So probably the first rumblings are about the time of, say, the Avignon papacy.
Yes, I
You know,
would say
because
that's
that's
probably
kind of
fair.
an end of a Gothic era and sort of heading there. The cathedrals have been built, and we're starting to kind of move
We have
into that kind of the rediscovering of Aristotle.
that is certainly
big
part
part
of
of
it.
this,
Yes. And it's not just Aristotle. I think again, context is everything. You guys know I love context. When you look at what's going on historically in Europe, it is post Crusades.
Yep.
Most of the big Crusades.
Yeah.
But it is pre fall of Constantinople.
Yep.
So you've got that period where certainly the Crusades had an effect because they brought a crap ton of newfound or refound knowledge and resources and
Yep.
things that Europe had not been exposed to because it had been so insulated in itself for several centuries, trying to figure out how to rebuild society after the fall of the Roman
Yeah.
Empire in the West.
Yeah. What can be super fascinating about this too is a lot of this rediscovered knowledge is courtesy of the Muslim.
absolutely.
Yes, a lot of it
piece
is.
And it's just like, well, yeah, they're the enemy, but
Well,
guess what? We're gonna take advantage of what they have discovered and brought with them from where they are, because they were some of the first to, again, rediscover some of these ancient Greek texts.
Well, it's interesting
translate
because when we look at we look at what we would call the Middle Ages. Certainly, the High Middle Ages. The end of that is really the beginning of the Renaissance.
Yeah.
There's an overlap there. And in the East, the Eastern Roman Empire, the Byzantine Empire, I don't know that a lot of that necessarily was lost, but there was a true divide between East and West, not
Yeah.
just religiously, because you got to remember in 1054, you have the Great Schism that begins. So the church is now split into two. So that's going to have an effect on, I think, how culture moves forward. Because
I mean, after the schism, they're definitely not going to be as willing to share
right, there's
what
not
they've
that
got. There's just not that
exchange.
cross pollination going on.
Exactly. And in the West, you've got the church has literally created universities to preserve knowledge, and I can't say this for certain, but I believe it's not necessarily that all those texts were lost in the West, but they were certainly out of vogue.
They were out of vogue. Plato was in. Aristotle was out for a long stretch.
Yes,
And then
and even Plato,
finding-
pagan philosophers were just not necessarily people you want to quote. And really now, you also have to you go back to Aquinas. Aquinas goes back to Aristotle. This is pre.
Yeah. I found it fascinating that Aquinas was kind of on the outs with the church for a while.
Well, all good philosophers have to be at some point, I think,
Okay.
because it's the job of theologians and philosophers to push the boundaries, to force us to think in new ways. And certainly Thomas, honestly, I think he's the greatest thinker in church history.
Yeah. Yeah.
Easily. And so he was obviously very good at that. But I could make an argument for Thomas being the first Renaissance man. I think you could.
Yeah, I
Good.
think you do that.
Certainly
So
by action, if not by time.
Well, intellectually and philosophically,
Absolutely,
not
yes.
artistically or architecture,
Right.
but certainly in thought. John Duns Scotus as
Yes.
well.
Yep.
Great
Yep.
Franciscan, yes.
Yes, all of that. And Saint Francis of Assisi. Again, these are all 13th century characters.
Dominic as well.
Dominic. All of these men had interactions with the Muslim world, partially through the Crusades
Yep.
and the expansion of the Muslim world.
and so it also turned out that in Spain, where again Islam had a foothold, a toehold in Europe, there were open cities
Yes.
where everyone was welcome, and they were archives and stuff that they had brought from the East, and Christian scholars were welcome to go through those and begin translations. So, if I can recommend a book, 'cause
Oh, absolutely.
everything you've been talking about is just stirring this book that I'm currently reading because it fits right in. You know how much I love Arthur Herman.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, I am reading The Cave in the Light.
Oh,
So this is Plato versus Aristotle and the impact on Western culture, and he's been drawing this awesome, like continuous line. Oregon. I think I'm pronouncing that name correctly. Origin. Aquinas, William of Ockham.
oh, yes.
John Duns Scotus, all through all these guys, and talking about Neoplatonist Christianity and Aristotle, and that kind of how do you each one of their influences on Christianity especially, but on civilization in general, because Plato kind of dominated. Finding a way to merge Plato into Christianity was a big deal, and like Aristotle's sort of focus on logic and everything was a more of a challenge to integrate. It was kind of this brutalist logic kind of didn't fit, but then eventually people would make it fit, and
Well,
you would
that's-
have both. And I'm up to about this time period, about the start, because he was just talking about 1400s Florence, the
Yes.
Republic of Florence, and this idea that yes, this can work. This Aristotelian idea of seeking freedom and each person's individual liberty, and how do you make that real in a sense of government?
Right, right.
I gotta say something here. Listeners,
for it, go
listeners,
for it.
listeners. Here's a little behind the scenes look. At the beginning, when Martin turns to Robert and says, "You have to carry this show," but I think we're obviously seeing a totally different side of that point just now as we've already gotten into it. Just a little behind the scenes look there.
Yes, he turns to me and says, "I have done no research, and you have to carry the show." And the look I gave him, you can't explain on podcasts, but obviously Martin did research and didn't even realize it.
Yeah,
He's
yeah.
just a font of knowledge.
Well, it is. It's an exceptional book, and it's now the top of my bucket list is to meet Professor Herman.
Oh, nice.
But he is in his 80s, and I don't think I'm gonna have. But
So you're groupie number one for Professor Herman.
yeah,
So you're an adult, so it's a lot easier for you to just say, I got a couple days off.
I gotta go. Yeah, I gotta find him. I don't even know where he is. So
Well, there's this nifty tool called Google.
You're old enough you have to say the Google.
yeah, the internet. Get on the internet.
The interwebs,
I can fire up my AOL and
dial
and go find him.
Well, my modern day reference to this Renaissance period, of course, connects to Hieronymus Bosch, who was
yes.
named after Hieronymus Bosch during the Renaissance time. And that's kind of made that name known through popular TV or the Bosch television series and the following sequels that they've done and everything.
Bosch is an artist who I was going to mention. Absolutely. He's technically right on that edge, but yes, Bosch is definitely.
I mean, I'm not knowledgeable on the Renaissance itself, but I have been lucky enough to see some of these things in person when I went to Europe at 16, many a moon ago. I think the biggest one that stood out to me was the Birth of Venus, Botticelli.
Yes, Botticelli, yes.
I mean, I've seen Sistine Chapel, Statue of David, and a lot of those things over there, but for some reason, Botticelli's work on that one stood out to me more. That stayed in my memory clearer than any of the other things I've seen.
That thing is huge too.
Yes.
It is much bigger than you think it is. We saw that when we were in Europe, and I was going to talk a lot about some of the stuff I saw in Rome and in Florence and what have you when we went. So what you're talking about, though, Martin, with the Aristotelian thought and trying to integrate that type of philosophy, that's why I go back to Aquinas.
Yeah.
Because Aquinas,
he's
he
kind of the
taught
first
that you could
Aristotelian.
know
Yeah.
God through reason alone, that you could reason the existence of a deity.
Right, as you guys say, faith and reason are not exclusive.
They are not,
The
and
two
we
feet-
have
the two shoes upon which we walk.
yes, and we have Aquinas. Predominantly, we think of him, but again, John Duns Scotus is a relative contemporary, and they both did a lot of work. Albert Magnus, I believe it is Albert
Yes,
the Great.
yes.
He is the mentor to Aquinas, I believe, and he had a great deal
Yes.
to do with all of
Professor
all
Herman
this.
talks about his role in shaping Aquinas.
Yes, so you've got all of these seeds are being planted long before we really get to what we understand to be the Renaissance, and contemporarily what we have going on is. I wouldn't exactly call it a time of peace in Europe because there is no such thing.
There's always somebody wanting to shoot somebody.
Right. Certainly, the Holy Roman Empire is
Stab them,
probably
actually at
They'll
this point.
stab.
Well,
stab. Well, no, there's
Shoot with
cannons.
arrows,
You could have arrows.
crossbows.
There's cannons.
There's cannon. Yeah.
The Holy Roman Empire is probably far more stable than when we generally think of it later. Because it's still
But it's not the empire of Charlemagne.
no, it is not the Empire of Charlemagne. You can make the argument the Empire of Charlemagne laid the groundwork for people like Aquinas and Dominic and so
Yeah.
forth, because that's the context in which all these great universities are built. So there's a lot of interconnectedness as always through this. You can't just deal with just one aspect of all of this stuff.
Complicated. Yeah.
So, but it all begins with the thinkers, and those are the guys that I think of, the ones that I think most of our listeners are going to know. But there's also guys like Protagoras, not to be confused with Pythagoras.
Yeah.
Very good. I'm glad you did that. Yep.
And there's other. Most people are not going to know who that guy is. And that's fine. But what they've done is they've started to think about things bigger than themselves in a way that is different than just thinking about theology. And
Right.
they're thinking about how to apply, I think, the things that they have learned about God and nature in a more consistent way. You're seeing the end of
That's-
feudalism
Aristotle, yeah.
coming about
Yep.
at this time.
That is a huge point.
And-
I'm glad you brought that up because that's, politically speaking, that is what leads to
Yes.
so much of these
The,
things happening.
yeah, the emergence of a merchant class and everything, yes.
Exactly. Yeah, sorry, we're Francis is a little bit low there, and Brother Andre is trying to get him to make
Move
sure
closer to the mic.
Move closer to the microphone. Yes, sir.
No, that's better, yes.
Yes,
Very
much
nice.
better. Certainly, the rise of the merchant class, what we would call in Catholic circles the market economy. It's not capitalism, although the market economy and capitalism have a huge amount of crossover.
Right. I mean,
The
it's
rise of banking was a big deal in Italy, in particular.
It is. Well, and we're talking about banking outside of the Jewish people, because the Jewish people were Europe's bankers for centuries.
That's right. Yeah.
But now we're talking about bankers even outside that.
Like the Medicinis.
Yep.
Yeah, the Medicis. You cannot talk about the Renaissance, at least without speaking of the Medicis.
No, you can't.
They
And
I'm sure we'll
bankrolled
get
it.
there.
oh, yeah, absolutely, we will get there. What did you say?
They bankrolled the Renaissance.
To a great extent, certainly artistically and architecturally, they did. You know, when we think of the Renaissance, the banking, the merchant class, people have money. When people have money, things start to change. Things start to advance because when you start having money, you got to have a place to spend it, right? People are not just putting it in their pockets. You've had
Or hiring mercenaries to go out and attack their neighbors.
right, and you've got a few centuries earlier in this, you've got Marco Polo going to China, opening up new trade routes.
wait. You mean to tell me that rich people don't just pour all their money into a giant building and swim in it like Scrooge McDuck? That rich people take their money and put it to work?
No, that can't be. That
You're
can't be.
dangerously getting close to trickle down economics.
Rising tides lift all boats, bitches.
But to put this into perspective, we started off by talking about what the Renaissance was, or I think that we moved from a place where we're in a subsistence mode, where I'm worried about my next meal in the lower Middle Ages, and then as the technology improves, we have enough food, we have enough medical care that we start sharing ideas, and I think that is what brings around the Renaissance is the
Yeah.
sharing of ideas,
Yes.
the growth of the universities, and perseverance
Well,
of knowledge.
Of course, the plague hits a little bit before this time, but as
It hits right really at the
yeah,
beginning.
right at the beginning.
I think it was
So
2020.
As the so as
Good one.
the plague recedes, then yes, and you're back again. You're back with this merchant idea, travel, exchanging ideas, people getting to see places they wouldn't normally see, and again the republics, the Italian republics, places like Venice and Florence,
They lead the way.
bankrolling this because they are building on that trade. But it's also they build on that trade because they live in this society where each individual person has value, and each individual person has civic responsibility to go out and do things and again advance their own personal liberty. But as they advance their individual personal destinies, it impacts that civic location positively.
Interesting you say that. I'm wondering if, because this is long before the rise of nationalism,
Oh yeah,
and you're suggesting, if I hear you correctly, that this sort of altruistic, capitalistic growth is best experienced in smaller organizations, as in city-states in this case.
well, I'm not saying that that's best. I'm saying that's what's happening
Well,
at
it
this
certainly
moment.
worked very well at the time.
Again, these places are adapting this Aristotelian notion of, yeah, the ideal society is maybe this benevolent dictator, but a realistic society is this republic where we all have a civic responsibility.
Well, let's
That's very Platonic,
not
as in Plato.
let's
well,
not
it's
well
Aristotelian because Plato's ideal is again this.
In small groups.
Here are the rules. Everybody follow the rules. Where Aristotelian is more ground up. But
well
yes,
hold
go
on.
ahead.
Let's not confuse things. Yes, it's the Florence Republic, the Venice Republic. However,
Right.
they are not republics as we know today.
No.
You
But
know,
they're
El Magnifico, Lorenzo the Great.
yeah.
He is the undisputed leader, shall we say, king, without being called a king.
Right.
And he's one of the Medicis, is
Oh yeah.
Brother Andre and Francis mentioned. And he is probably, if you want to put any single person as a pivot point, not certainly that he's responsible, but so much hinges on him and what he
Right.
does in Florence. He's also the bankroller of much of the papal state at this time, because the Catholic Church owned about the middle one half 50% of Italy, and that's a real power in the time. Not a great power, but it is a real power.
And there is war going on at this time.
And there is war going. There's always war going on in Europe. There always is. But it is a little bit more localized and less general chaoticness that you see in the 17th century with the 30 Years' War.
Right. Yeah, that's when you get the larger rise of more
Yes,
nationalism.
that is larger true nation states as we would think of them today.
There was a time, again, in early 1400s, and certainly they accrued more power to themselves as they went on. But there was a period where they genuinely, Florence was like basically a mayor and a city council, and they genuinely changed hands. Like people
yes.
would leave that office, and someone else would get to do it.
Yes.
And-
I'm not
and
saying that
they
there's
were-
not.
Yeah, but you're right. Yeah, after a while, the Doge or whatever they were called at these places,
Right, yeah, in
did
Venice in particular.
did begin to accrue more power to themselves.
Well, because of the
and-
trade
Because of the wealth.
and the money.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah.
very much
I
so.
mean, it's no different than
and
today.
they-
He's an
they didn't-
oligarch.
Yeah,
London has the same issues, and so did Paris, but
Yes.
they weren't quite as developed as it was here. And I think that's
Well, that's because of the trade issue.
And I think that's kind of where I want to see if we can zero in on, because why was Italy so advanced beyond?
Well, it's surrounded by water on three sides.
yeah. It's so fractured,
And it is
up to this point too.
The southern route from Spain to the east.
The
Right.
Silk Road.
It is
Yeah.
because it's on the southern side of the Alps,
Right.
and it is a direct connection to the Muslim world.
So,
So it's the center of civilization in many ways still.
yeah.
yeah,
and
in other words,
one other ethnic group that was important, the Normans, Vikings.
oh, absolutely. Yes,
Freaking Vikings, were Sicily and southern Italy, and initially kind of opposed, but eventually kind of came to an agreement with the papacy,
Mhm.
and was like, okay, well, we're on side now. We're buds.
yeah,
we're
fully
cool.
Christianized essentially
Yeah.
is what that was.
And so that whole Viking kind of, the lazy ones starve because it's always winter. Well, they carried that even in places that they didn't have winter, and they worked hard
Sure,
and they developed stuff and grew stuff and were, a big influence.
and the Normans had an enormous influence on this time, especially in the issue of architecture.
Martin is making an argument for the Protestant work ethic in Sicily.
I make you an offer you can't refuse.
Eventually, yes, the Lutheran work ethic in Northern Europe would kind of leave and wouldn't really stick in Italy, but
Yes. Well, Italy, it really is a different culture.
It's an amalgamation of cultures.
In many ways, it is.
Yeah, I
It
think
is,
the being locked in by the Alps to the north prevented a lot of bleed over and change. And you also have the entire Mediterranean, Mare Autunum, our sea is what the Romans called it. There may be something to be said for the fact that Rome became Rome so easily because of where it was located.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I think that's kind of what we're talking about here. Is Italy was primo spot to be connected to everything, and from there the Renaissance birthed outwards. Is that fair?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Not necessarily Rome, because really you have to say Florence outwards. But yes,
Well, that's correct. Yeah,
Ultimately,
the Italian peninsula.
Yeah.
Yes.
Ultimately, when we get to Rome really taking part, is when the church gets behind all of these artists and architects and thinkers. That's when it explodes worldwide.
Right, and that's what you're talking
because of
Julius
the influence
II
of the church.
and
Yes.
and Michelangelo and all those.
Yes.
Leonardo.
And really, almost all of the people who are part of this prior to even Rome really becoming the center of the Renaissance, because you can make an argument that it's not, there's no true center because it's happening everywhere. But
Right. Yeah.
the money and influence is Venice, Rome, Florence.
Florence,
I mean
absolutely.
that triumvirate of cities, and so there's because of the church influence that helps it spread because there is that one religious group that it spreads at least until we get to 1517, and that rebel, Mr. Luther, sitting over there on his phone. Um,
Well, you also have to understand too that Constantinople falls.
yes, it falls.
That's taking place in this milieu.
Hold on.
Word boner.
Yeah, that's one
That's
of my
a-
favorites, but
yes.
it usually gets me a ding there, because then all of a sudden this Eastern Christianity is gone. Essentially,
Well, and I can't name people, but there has to be an influx of people who are who leave Constantinople and the Eastern Empire for the West because it is the only safe place to be. Now, I can't tell you how many or who, but there's going to be refugees. I mean, that's just the way that works.
and this is and you can almost shoot me for saying this because it's so ironic, but this is at the time of the rise of the Ottoman Empire.
Yes,
Because that's almost an oxymoron. But it had to rise at some point in order to
Right.
be to last for as long as it did. And there was a great cultural influence on this too. The Ottomans they weren't afraid to trade.
they also weren't afraid to attack.
That's correct. That's right. Especially after you got Constantinople, we got this.
You attack if you can defeat them. You trade if you can't.
Well, and as America learned in the 20th century, once you become trading partners with people, it's awfully hard to disengage and become enemies. And because look at where we are with France and with Germany and Japan. They were the great enemies in the middle of the 20th century, and now they're the great allies of the 21st. Well, maybe not great, but you know what I'm saying. There's no war likely between the old belligerents of the 18th, 19th, and 20th centuries.
Now that leads me to a thought that I had also. We're calling this the Renaissance of this time period, but isn't this the first Renaissance? If we look at the second Renaissance happening after World War II, when everything made a giant progressive leap in art, science, and so forth. I mean, move another 100 years down the road, and I'm sure they'll be considering that the second Renaissance, because it wasn't just America. I mean, it was worldwide after the war, and so many technology advancements and art and everything.
And that's a great point, Cajun.
I
It's
do,
one of
I
the
love
things that I've always had in the back of my head is that the Renaissance never ended. It had some pauses, definitely, and then there are multiple waves. And really, what we think of as the first, as you point out, really isn't even the first. When you look at ancient Greek history, the Greeks had their own dark ages where they lost writing and they did not have a continuity of culture like we did in the West.
The Library of Alexandria
Yes.
gone, disappeared, and who knows what all was in there that was
Yeah, who
lost when
knows?
it went.
And so what we think of as the high point of Greek culture is actually their Renaissance,
Yeah, well,
them coming out of their
came
dark
back.
ages.
Yeah.
So this is in some ways this is a very common thing that happens to humanity. We go through dark times, and then we have this rebirth.
The light always breaks. The
Yeah.
sun always rises.
So yes,
It's a personal philosophy of mine that some of your best times are always preceded by some of your worst times.
absolutely,
And,
absolutely.
and so, as a natural progression of the exchange of ideas, you have to go through tough times to spur good times. What's that old saying? Hard times make great men. Great men makes
Like good times,
and
good times
make soft men.
So, yeah.
Yes, soft men make hard
Hard
times.
times,
Yes,
yeah.
it is very much a
cyclical.
cycle. Yeah, that is very much the truth. So there's lots of factors that go into why there's a Renaissance.
So we were supposed to be talking about art, but right?
Yes,
we haven't
and that's
gotten there
we haven't
yet.
even gotten there yet because we've laid the groundwork.
Context.
Because it is so important. So we get to the second half of the 15th century. That's where you see Lorenzo the Great. And if you've not been to Florence, I highly recommend it. The Uffizi is the palace of Lorenzo the Great. That's been turned into one of the greatest art museums in the entire world. and it is phenomenal. We didn't have as much time as I would have liked to go through the Uffizi, but you see stuff there that if you've taken an art history class, it's like, oh, I know this. I have a book at home. Like there is the one that struck me the most was this painting that Michelangelo did. It is it's either a Holy Family, because now I'm having a hard time remembering the actual because I saw so much with Mary and Joseph and small child Jesus, or it is Mary and Elizabeth with John and Jesus as small children. I can't remember which, but it's circular. And it's one of those things that you would recognize it from your art history classes immediately. So we're going through the Uffizi, we come into this room, and there it is. And to me, that was just stunning. It was very moving as well. It's like when we were in Assisi, and we saw all of the works by Giotto in Assisi that I had no idea we were going to see there. In a way, it's almost a Renaissance type experience when you come across stuff like that. Because they're so great and so unexpected. In many ways, that's what's going on. So much great stuff happens, and it's so unexpected because it is not a continuation of what has gone before.
It's a personal renaissance.
For myself, yes, but I mean, as far as in that parallel,
I like what you said there about it's not a continuation of what went before.
it's built upon it in many ways,
Right.
but it is not a continuation. It is a transformation.
And see, I think that's what's so fascinating about the Renaissance is to go back to creativity, which is one of our favorite subjects to talk about. There was, call it inspiration, call it karma, call it whatever. There was an explosion of creative output during this time that may have never been equaled at any other point in history. You could make an argument. Yeah.
I think you can make an argument for that. And again, we think of that, the latter half of the 15th century forward for that. But the groundwork is laid in the 13th and 14th centuries with Botticelli, Hieronymus Bosch, Giotto, and so many others. And Donatello, he's a contemporary of Michelangelo.
Right.
You've got Raphael, you've got Da Vinci, Michelangelo, all of these great artists. They knew each other. They lived at the same time.
That's right.
And that's not even counting all the unnamed that we have lost that I can't even think of off the top of my head. It's just, but what sets the stage is this openness to new ideas and exploring the world around us in new ways, still in trying to be in harmony with the church,
Right.
because that'll get you in trouble.
That'll get you killed.
It depends, because the church didn't actually do the killing. They did a lot of the trying, and it's like you're guilty, you get handed over to the
Mob.
to the temporal authorities,
Yeah.
and they generally did it. But yeah,
But nobody expects the Spanish Inquisition.
no,
I was
nobody
wondering when
does.
that was coming. It had to come.
It had to come. So, anyways, as Cajun pointed out, we are about 33 minutes in, so it is time for bourbon break.
May I start off?
Have at it, sir.
So, listeners, as we gather, it is a time of great sadness in the rock and roll world. So,
Did something happen?
just a couple of weeks after his final concert,
Oh yes,
Ozzy Osbourne,
the Ozman.
I considered introducing myself as Ozzy at our start instead of Martin. Now,
You don't have enough black eye makeup.
I know. I considered all the rest of July,
Physically apply some. I don't think he'd enjoy it too much, but
We could.
all the month of July. I considered putting Ozzy written on my fingers, like Oz's tattoo. Now, Robert, of course, is more a new wave, new romantic
Punk, new wave.
punk guy. Francis and I are more, kind of heavy guys.
Yeah.
And
France is a little bit more mainstream than you.
yeah, but
I like Journey, and you can't stand them.
no. As I said on Facebook, I hope my roommate in the assisted living facility doesn't like Journey, because too bad, he's going to get an earful of Black Sabbath until I die.
Or until he does.
Yeah, until he does, till he applies for a transfer. But if you're not into this kind of music, I know it. Like I said, it may not make sense to people, but sometimes listening to heavy music is the only way I can make where my head feels like it's working right.
Well, you sound so much like Donald Sutherland as Oddball. When we go into battle, we like to play music very loud. It kind of calms us down.
And it's not even the volume; it's the pace, the tempo, the heaviness, the grunt at the low end.
Well, it is not unlike
It-
early punk.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There's crossover.
Yeah.
It makes the synapses align correctly, and it makes us feel better. And Ozzy built that.
There's something
built that.
very visceral
Yeah.
about that kind of music, whether it's the punk of the early to mid '70s or the heavy metal stuff later into the '80s and what have you. It is they share that commonality in that it is it really evokes
It's because it's
a response.
in
that
some ways they're both a reaction to the jazzification of rock and roll, the idea of 10-minute jams,
or the
especially
folk
for
song rock.
folk song, especially punk. I mean, punk is 3 chords, 2 minutes, and up yours, and then
Right.
you move on to the
There's
next
no such
song.
thing as a punk love song.
Right, or a punk jam.
Right.
you know. But 1970 when Black Sabbath hits, it's unlike anything else. They didn't know what they had, and they didn't know if it was going to keep selling or not. But it caught on, and like I said, Ozzy and Tony Iommi and Bill Ward and Geezer Butler built that, and so many others followed on that I love. And here's to you, Ozzy. We miss you, buddy.
Here, and you left me out on that too. Out here, we was listening to anything from Hank Williams Jr. 1 minute and switching
That's
over
right.
to Black Sabbath the next.
That's right.
It was a real
Your
bounce
guys.
back and
Yeah.
forth between those early hard.
See,
metal
you guys
bands.
reminded me that Accept opened that show. I did not remember that. I
That's
just
right.
remember Motley opening
I had
that
to
show.
research it. I knew there was a third one, didn't know who it was.
I couldn't remember
When I-
that, but
when we
yeah,
researched it.
Accept.
And I hate to say it, but I think Motley stole the show that night, really, with their energy and everything. Ozzy did great. I
Ozzy
mean,
did
he was
great.
Ozzy. But
Ozzy was tired that night. I don't know if you
Motley
remember that.
had the energy that
Yeah.
they put out to the max that night, and they really got the show going.
Well, so I agree because 2 years later, Ozzy takes Metallica out with him, and that's about the time where all of the thrashing is catching on, and Metallica was monster that night, just monster, and it was really hard for Oz to match that output and that energy. Of course, that's it's after the great Randy Rhoads had been killed. I didn't get to see Randy Rhoads. It
No, I
wasn't
didn't.
until '84 and '86.
That's right. He was in town. I certainly remember for the Diary of a Madman tour. Couldn't go see it. I was a little too young.
Yeah.
But they played a lot of that, and that's really that and Blizzard of Oz are truly masterpieces.
They're landmarks.
They're landmark
They're landmarks.
masterpieces.
And what Ozzy did, it was so wild to make this, to make your mark as part of a band, get kicked out, and then decide, well, you know what? I'm just going to start over, and I'll just be bigger than you.
And he was.
And he pulled it off.
Absolutely.
Yeah, but he
And
was a
it's
little
crazy.
different too than the Black Sabbath days. I mean,
Yeah.
his style
He was
changed
a little bit more
it,
mainstream,
became-
and that's okay. I mean,
Yeah.
he commercialized a lot of it.
He took advantage of a moment,
He
for sure.
He
because
did. I mean,
he-
Ozzy is on my playlist constantly. And my wife is constantly reminding me, she goes, how can somebody sing so well, and yet when you hear him speak, you can't understand him?
That's true.
Because it's that,
It's called drugs.
yeah.
And, well, it's, the heavy Birmingham
Listening
accent.
or taking?
Yes.
So,
Both.
But
Who is it? Tom Petty goes the other way. You can understand him when he speaks. You can't understand him when he sings.
Well, and of course, there's always Bob Dylan. Come on.
Oh yeah, Bob Dylan. Yes, yes.
But I mean,
I think that's who I was thinking of.
Ozzy found the
Well, maybe it's
secret.
Keith Richards.
It's the idea of, hey, what do I got to do? I got to grab a hotshot guitarist. That's numero uno.
Yeah.
And then go from there. So
Well, Randy Rhoads was probably the truly master of why those first two
Yeah.
albums were so good,
Yeah.
and his untimely death. Ozzy never got over it. He used to say that he was my best friend. They were perfect together, and the whole tragedy that went beyond that. I mean, because it was during the Diary of the Madman tour when it happened.
yeah,
And they had to finish with a slew of other guys, and it just wasn't. Ozzy himself said it wasn't our best work because Randy's gone.
So Ozzy's gone.
Who else?
He's not the only one
Yeah.
we've lost.
oh, I know. There's another biggie.
The '80s took a hell of a hit this month.
We lost Lonnie Anderson just recently.
True.
That I tell you that hurts.
WKRP in Cincinnati.
As
That one
God is my
hurts.
witness, I thought turkeys could fly.
You know, it's funny that Jennifer really ran the station.
She did.
She was the
did,
highest paid
so-
employee, of course.
Yes. So Lonnie Anderson was terrific. Malcolm Jamal
She had a
Warner.
lot of high points.
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
yes, Malcolm Jamal Warner. That's just tragic.
That was a shock. Yes.
Yes.
Just saw it this morning. The story was that the accidental drownings, he was trying to save his daughter.
Yeah, his daughter got caught in a tide. They were swimming in Costa Rica, and he drowned. And it just,
As any good father should do.
Yes,
I mean, it
yes.
is really.
And
you
he
know.
turned into an excellent actor, especially in his later years, from starting out on the Cosby Show, on a couple of the medical shows where he played the doctor there and so
Oh,
forth.
yeah, The
And
Resident, fantastic.
The Resident.
He was
played
really
a very
good on
good
that.
role on that.
Yeah. It seems like there was somebody else.
Was it one of the Beach Boys or was that?
No. I mean, there's been so many
There have.
body blows of kind of.
There have been several great comic artists that have and creators that have died this past year. That is just too numerous to mention. So it's guys that are older than us, but not by that
Not by much.
And that's what hurts.
And Malcolm Jamal Warner really wasn't.
No, he was younger than I think
really our
everybody in the
age.
room, except for
He was my age.
was okay. I was thinking he was a little bit older than you, but all right. Because to my mind, you're always so much younger than you really are, for some reason. Because you look so much more youthful than the rest of
Yeah,
us.
Brian Wilson.
Brian Wilson. Okay, yeah,
Yes.
yeah. So it's just dropping like flies.
Roberta Flack.
Yes,
Another-
yes. It has been a rough year on
It's been a,
celebrities.
rough summer. so,
Gen X is taking a hit this summer.
yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's not necessarily a whole lot of Gen Xers, but people that Gen X loved.
yeah.
Grew up watching and being entertained by.
Yeah, yeah. So, anyways,
On to bourbon.
yeah. Now on to more fun stuff. Now
Yeah.
that Martin has got us all depressed.
All aboard.
Bye, Ozzy.
to all those we have
Absent friends.
yes, absent friends. Thank you.
Raise a glass.
Chihuahua.
So, Martin, you wanted to go first. I hope besides just to talk about Ozzy.
Well, I'm certainly capable of doing so. I am trying some of Cajun's Peerless. I don't believe I've ever had any of this bourbon. I've been wanting to sample it for years. 115 proof, and I did let it kind of mellow a little bit before I had any. I didn't hit it straight out of the bottle. Did let the ice start to get a little something in it. This is good.
Mm-hmm.
Sort of that creamy milk caramel, a little bit of sugary caramel flavor to it with a touch of vanilla. I like it.
I'm glad you enjoyed it. I want to offer a alternate point of view. I had that in the past. Did not care for it at all. And
Really, I find that astounding because this, to me, I also poured it and let it sit for a bit. And while I do not think it's terribly complex for a high proof bourbon,
No, it doesn't hit 2 or 3 levels or anything. No.
it is still quite enjoyable.
Oh yeah.
What's the price point on this? Do you remember?
These are
I
60.
think it's $60.
I was gonna say 60 to 80, depending on where you find it. I think it was me and Indomitable Uncle Tommy Lee went down and toured the Peerless Distillery in a year or so back, and that's when I picked up that bottle. Excellent tour down there. It's very nice. In fact, him and me was the only one in that group. We were there early for the very first one, and it was very enjoyable. In fact, when we did the tasting, the young fellow brought out something special for us to try since we were the only two there. And for the life of me, I think it was one of their, every so often down there, they put out one every month or two that's just very, very limited numbers and so forth. And
Yeah.
it varies from each batch on what they put out, which was a nice little extra to the tour.
Yeah, this is. I think you're right. It's a little creamy, but I think in the back of there's some kind of fruitiness I'm getting in the back of the throat.
Okay, good. Yeah, I'm not really getting that, but it's awesome that you're picking that up.
I can't say exactly what it is. I'm not sure yet because honestly, I've been talking so much. I haven't really had a chance to sip as much.
Well, you notice mine's gone, so.
Yeah, well, I think I accidentally poured too much, but that's all right. I'm not driving. Not until much later.
That's good.
Francis, you tried something different there. Same thing I got.
I'm trying the same thing that you had, the old William Tar, which is I've never had it before. I've seen it. It's a Manchester Reserve. It's not
supposed to be some high end hooch, man.
7 years is what it says on here, and I can't quite. I think it's like 94 proof, 96 proof, and it's got a smoothness to it. Stays in the mouth, very much so. Caramel, the caramels with the little white center in them.
Mm-hmm.
When you mentioned caramel, I was taking a sip, and I said, "Holy crap, that's what I'm drinking."
And that kind of surprised me, as light as it is. I didn't
Very
think the
much so.
caramel flavor would be as strong in it, with it being a lighter color to the liquid.
That's
I
right.
got that bottle. It was a package deal. They were selling 2 bottles together, and you had to buy both to get it. And I'd never tried it before either. And I thought, I can't even remember what the other bottle was that I really wanted, but
Well, I would not be afraid of this at all. I really liked it. It's very, very good.
and it's around an 80 price point, maybe a little less if you find it in some places. It's about the same price point as the Peerless.
It sounds interesting. Honestly, at $60, I don't. Other than it being 115 proof, I don't know that I think that the Peerless is a super great value at 60. Because I think there are others at $60 that I think I would prefer, but it's still it's. I mean, I wouldn't not pay it, but I'm surprised it was 60. I would have put it like
at a similar, $60, $65 under 70 price point. I think it'd be comparable to like a Baker's 7. And I think I prefer this to the Baker's 7.
oh, okay, because I know how
That's
much you
high
like
praise.
that.
You like
yeah.
the Baker's?
Yeah, Baker's 7 is good, but feel like it's more of a high rye kind of pepper style.
Yes, yes,
And
yeah.
this one does not feel that way to me.
I'm usually
even
not
though
a fan of those high proofs, but that's why I think I like this one much better because it's under 100. It's kind of the sweet spot for me.
I pretty much second most of what you said about it. Like I say, it surprised me with the color being so light looking at the bottle that it's got such a
I've let
strong
mine
caramel
bloom,
to it.
as I've done.
Mine's mellowed out too quite a bit sitting here. And Brother Andre went a little different route this morning.
I did. It might be an abomination to the brotherhood, but I am not drinking a straight bourbon. I am drinking an Irish coffee.
You did go the Irish coffee.
I did, and I mixed it with.
a Kentucky coffee.
Yeah, I was gonna say it's a Kentucky coffee because there's no.
Well, I'm
It's not
Irish.
Irish whiskey, so.
Okay, hillbilly coffee. We'll call
Oh, yeah,
there you go.
There you
There you
go.
go.
There you go. Now that's a thing.
Redneck roast.
That has to stick. That has to. I love that.
It's a label that I'm not familiar with. I mixed it with Kentucky Vintage out of Willett Distilleries.
I've seen that before. It's one I've
Yeah.
considered picking up.
I would highly recommend it. Like a lot of the Willets, the first notes you get on the palate is the sweetness of the corn, but as it sits on the tongue, I get a foodie reference, a cardamom taste on the back of the tongue.
I have no idea what that even
It's a
is.
baking spice. Look at
Well, I
this.
figured that, but I mean, what?
It's a musky cinnamon.
Okay, okay.
But it's not-
Earthy.
yeah, it's not on the front of the tongue; it's at the back of the tongue, and it gives a wonderful flavor. And I didn't try it straight, but I did take a sip of it as soon as it hit the coffee. Woo! It had a kick to start with, but mellowed out as it. mingled.
Interesting.
Looks like that's about a $40 price point, maybe a little bit less if you catch
It's well
Yeah,
worth the money.
places.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's-
yeah.
I knew I hadn't paid a whole lot on that one.
Yeah. So
And-
that is a lower price point than these others.
And
but
if you are going to choose to mix it, that's a good one to mix it with versus some of these other higher.
And I think I picked that up just because I like the label on the bottle.
Well, you know,
Like my-
sometimes.
I think the higher proof ones. Yeah, some would say, I'm less of a purist than I used to be. But I think some of the higher proof ones I think are good candidates for mixing as well because, again, I think I tend to get more flavor notes out of those. It's not necessarily because they're higher proof necessarily, because I can't tell you the exact science behind it. But I tend to get more flavor out of it, the ones that I've had, and I think those are good candidates for mixing because there's more to complement whatever you mix it with. Rather than subsuming either the alcohol or whatever you're
yeah, they
mixing into the
stand up a little tougher to the mixers. Yeah.
yeah,
Balance it out a little bit.
exactly.
Cut
exactly.
through it.
If you take an 80 proof bottle of bourbon and you mix it with something else, you got to be really careful what you mix it with. Otherwise, you're going to lose
The bourbon.
The bourbon, yeah. So
You're gonna-
interesting.
Hard
Very
side.
impressive, brother Andre. Well done, sir.
Very impressive. And these are 3 bourbons we have never had on the show before.
That's right.
So it's always nice when we can do that because after 252 episodes, That's a lot of bourbons. Now we've had a lot of
Thank
repeats.
Cajun for planning this out. and
Yes.
making sure.
Well, we've had a lot of repeats on the show for sure.
And we do have a fourth bottle nobody's tried yet
Yes.
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 coming up.
We're gonna hit that.
Yeah, we definitely
We
need to
still
hit.
have 30 minutes of discussion.
Yes. Oh, easily. Yes. So are we good with bourbon break? gentlemen?
I believe so.
Okay. So.
So, Robert, I have a question for you then.
Oh, all right.
So, what distinguishes the Renaissance artist from the Gothic artist and others that came before? What's the characteristics that define then Renaissance art?
Fat, naked women.
Well, there is some
Rubenesque.
there is some truth
naked
to
women.
that. But you had some fat naked women.
Rubenesque.
To use your phrase, Brother Andre. Before that, you look at Venus and the birth of Venus. That's no Twiggy, But you're right; it's not as Rubenesque as what comes later. But as far as what distinguishes Renaissance art from prior art, which is a great question because it's exactly where I wanted to go.
Oh, good. Good.
So,
So
great-
here I am, volleyball setter.
that's
I'm
right.
popping it up in the air and letting you spike it.
It. That's my job as the hammer. Now that we don't do multiple quotes in Code of Honor, I don't get to play the hammer as often as I used to. So it's always nice when those opportunities come up. Listeners, some of you may or may not recall, because I know I've mentioned it before, but it doesn't come up often. Even though I am currently doing a lot of writing, my background is in the visual arts. So, especially cartooning, which is still near and dear to my heart. It just wasn't something that I was able to pursue as a career, unfortunately. But the Renaissance for me is the greatest artistic period in human history for a lot of reasons. And what differentiates it from what came before is a couple of things. One is the realism of the art.
Okay.
It is more photo-like than what has gone before. There is depth,
A determination to accurately depict the human form
yeah, and nature.
and nature.
And nature, the world. It is much more. It is much more realistic in that sense. There is depth to things. There is an attention to detail, and in some ways it's a little less fanciful. And like when you think of Hieronymus Bosch, his stuff is very. Almost psychedelic for the time. It's very, very fanciful. Whereas,
What was the painting on the Bosch TV series that
I've
Bosch
not seen.
had hanging on his wall? Francis, do you know?
No, I couldn't.
Y'all big.
Is it the? Is
Kind
it?
of a bluish colored painting. There's a lot of blue in it, if I remember right. I don't know if that means anything or not.
I've not seen it, but and I forget the name of the Bosch painting that I'm thinking of, but it is this huge scene. It's almost like a Where's Waldo kind of thing. It is so busy with all these different fantastical creatures
okay.
and stuff going on. That might be it, because that's probably the most famous Bosch painting. I don't know if you guys remember it from your art history classes. But it is that attention to, as you put it, Martin, depicting the world as it is, but also it's as it could be. Okay?
Yeah, I mean,
It
despite
is-
its overly religious nature, it's a seeking of God's nature
Well, I wouldn't say it
And-
despite it's overly religious. It's because of that.
because of that. Yeah,
As opposed to
this
despite.
realism and this depiction of the natural world, and it's in a very accurate state.
Yeah, I would put
is-
it like
is very-
this.
yeah, very
Um,
interesting.
Middle Ages, high Middle Ages, the Gothic style.
I've got the Garden of Earthly Delight.
Yes,
A
yes.
very
Oh, yes.
complex
There's the
painting.
one.
Yes, that's
Things of
it.
good, evil, temptation, and the consequences of sin, which fits well for the Bosch character, actually.
Yes.
Very, very detailed and complex. It almost looks like it's in 3 parts, like.
Yes, yes, very much. That's exactly the painting that I thought it would be. The when you get to the Renaissance art, what I think is different in terms of the approach is that pre-Renaissance art, I think of more as a documentary. It depicts people and places and things, and granted, mostly religious,
Right.
because when the church is funding all of the art, you're going to get religious art. That's just the way that is.
You better get religious order. They're not going to like you anymore.
Exactly.
Pay for it, yeah.
And it's more. And again, you have to remember that art, up through this point, is a teaching tool as much as it is for to make things,
Yes,
have
As
pretty
in
things hanging on the
religious
wall.
teaching.
Yes.
Illiterate people can't
Yeah.
read books, but they can look at pictures.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So
for an illiterate society, this is how you can communicate complex ideas and teachings.
exactly.
But,
And-
who's the greatest Renaissance man of this time? I think
Da Vinci.
movie and so forth and books and novels and everything has led us to believe it is Da Vinci. But I was wondering about Robert's thoughts on that. Does he fit the bill, or has he been publicly blown up? I mean, he was a great guy. I mean, he was in all different things and everything. And
As far as the sheer number of things he was into, different fields, yeah, it's got to be Da Vinci, because he was not just an artist. He was a painter. He was an architect. He
Sculpture,
was a
yeah.
Philosopher.
He
Engineer.
didn't really do a whole lot of sculpting, but they
A
all
little
did.
bit.
They all did. But that's not where
Yeah.
his strength
no,
was.
no, not
He's
at
a
all.
true polymath.
Yes, he was a polymath.
But
And
some of his inventions were well ahead of the time period to even
He-
be feasible at that
he
time.
designed the first helicopter, over 500 years ago. That's astounding to me. So yeah, I would call him the most widespread. His knowledge is the most wide. His works spread across more areas than anybody else. However, as far as the greatest Renaissance creative,
I knew there had to be one behind there.
I
Because Da
still-
Vinci's been so
Michelangelo?
I
publicized.
still go with Michelangelo.
Okay.
For a lot of reasons. But before I get to that, I want to finish the thought I
Yeah,
was.
because you had two things you wanted to do, right?
Yes.
So let's make sure you do.
So the difference, you've got the documentary style.
Yeah.
It's just depicting the facts. When you get to the Renaissance, you've got, and also there are bigger topics, right?
Yeah.
More broad in many ways. And in the Renaissance, you tend to get art that focuses on a single moment more so. When you look at using Michelangelo, even in the Sistine Chapel, it is not the back wall aside. The ceiling is a series of individual moments, right? And each one of those is given great detail, and the individual figures that line the outside of the ceiling are the great patriarchs or apostles, and they are depicted, of course, in very classical ways and what have you. But a lot of the art tends to come upon these single moments. You can make an argument that Da Vinci's Mona Lisa is something similar. It is a single moment in time for that woman, whoever that woman was. There's some debate on that.
Or man.
There is,
Yeah, some people say it's a self-portrait, don't they?
Yep.
Feminized.
yeah, I've heard that. Then there's, you look at Michelangelo's Pietà, the original Pietà, because he did multiple. The one that is the most famous. When you walk into St. Peter's, it is literally just to your right. It is the first piece of artwork along the right side as you come in. It's huge. The Virgin Mary is actually life-size in the sense she's about the size of a normal woman, whereas the Christ figure is massive. He would be something like 7 feet tall if you stood him up. So he's huge. But
Statue of David.
that's in Florence.
Yes, I actually saw that when
Yeah.
I was over that way. Yeah,
That's
that
another
is
one,
huge too.
and that is huge. That's like 17 feet tall.
Yeah,
17?
Something like that.
yeah,
Wow.
and everything is huge to scale.
Yes. The hands are huge.
that's why the
but the
ladies like
genitalia is not quite as big as the hands would make you think. But that's also another thing.
It was a
That's-
cold day.
It was a cold day.
Marlboro stays cold.
But that's another example of it's a single moment in time. It is David just before he fights Goliath. He's got the slings slung. It is slung. It is strung over his shoulder, and he's looking off into the distance. It's like he's watching Goliath come toward him. Is the sense you get? Even a little bit later, you look at Caravaggio, Granted, he's not Renaissance; he's a little bit later. It is a you think of his stuff. It's also a single moment in time. Paul falling off his horse on
He
the
was
road to
famous for
Damascus.
using red in his paintings, wasn't
He was famous for his use of light.
he? Light, okay.
Yeah, and that's something else. Everything was very flat
It's
prior.
carpaccio.
You get much more color, more vibrancy. It's more alive.
There's a sense of depth, real physical 3D depth
Absolutely.
to Renaissance art that's
Yes.
maybe missing in previous styles.
Exactly. And it's also surprisingly broader in terms of the subject matter because now you do get some pagan subjects. You get,
Back to the Greeks, yeah.
you get stuff like there's a very famous outdoor statue that's basically it's a bacchanalia kind of a thing.
Right.
It starts with an L. It's the Lacoon or something like that. Lacoon or OON. There's some
Yeah.
umlauts in there.
Yeah, okay.
You know the one I'm talking about.
I think I've heard that
I
name
think I
before.
do.
Yes.
It's got umlauts. It's German. Come on, that's your bailiwick.
Where's it located?
It's in one of the squares in Rome.
Yeah, I think I may have seen that one. It's striking a bell. And that's another thing, the fountains.
Yes, the fountains.
Fountains,
in
you
Rome
can't pass up the fountains. If you
No.
don't want to go inside the museum stuff, the fountains alone are worth
are just
going around
incredible,
and
yeah.
enjoying the walk through Rome.
And the fountains is where I think you're going to see a lot of that more pagan subject
Yep.
stuff. And I think that's because it's not necessarily church funded. It might be more civic funded, so you can get away with that. But and you see individual portraits start appearing that didn't appear before. So it's such a sea change in everything. That's what makes the Renaissance so different from what goes before, not just in subject matter and style. It is a sea change in talent. Not that the guys who came before were hacks, because they most certainly were not. In some ways, there are some of the Gothic artists I prefer over some of the Renaissance artists. I still love Giotto. He is one that, even though he does not seem as sophisticated, he is one that I think is just incredible. New techniques of art were being tried.
Okay.
Moving from fresco to more canvas, and how the canvases are prepared and how they're varnished afterwards and preserved. And that's why so much Renaissance art will last centuries longer than modern art, because modern artists don't create with preservation in mind. It's very, very odd, but it's one of the things that has changed. And it's almost as if God said, "Let there be light" a second time when it comes to these creatives.
Yeah.
I don't want to dominate this. It's just, to me, it's just so fascinating how much things changed in literally a lifetime. or
Well,
two.
you are literally the expert in this group at the moment on this.
Well, certainly have some more time with it than anybody else, probably.
And just I'm just sitting here, got one knee on the other and a glass of bourbon and at the ranch, just kind of at the peak of human civilization. And just I feel like I should be walking back out to my Rolls Royce and saying, "Home, Jeeves," when we finish.
What's the Grey Poupon?
It was outstanding, sir. So yeah, another huge thanks to I would mention this every 10 minutes if I could, to Cajun. What a good cook, and everything was superb for breakfast. So now I can't wait for lunch. I know it's
That's a
going to be
secret.
amazing.
So I've talked a lot about my perceptions, but this needs to be a discussion, not a lecture. So
I'd like to throw in there that I think the Renaissance is important in our current society because it sort of defines our classic ideals of beauty, of knowledge, of art and philosophy. It shapes everything that we define as normal.
to a large degree, it certainly does.
It's very well put.
There's an absence of beauty, perhaps, in our current culture.
Oh yeah, yeah.
The vitriol.
But
There's-
industrialized death destroyed a lot.
It did. Industrialization period changed everything.
I mean, we enjoy it because it allows us to, drive out here to the ranch to enjoy mass-produced bourbon. But
It also gives us the
industrialization
technology to do this podcast.
to do this podcast. But at the same time,
I have some small batch, very pre-runner bourbon too now. And don't get any smaller batch than that.
Now, come on, we would probably all get together and have this conversation, even if we didn't have microphones stuck
That
in
is
our
true.
face.
Amen to
That's
Well, that
true.
is certainly the. I mean, this does feel like, the three of us back in the day sitting around a table at China Inn for 2 hours after Penny's made our lunch.
Yeah, and
and,
the number of
talking
times-
about the books that we're reading. So this is,
yeah, and the number of times we used to say, I wish somebody had recorded this because this is such a good discussion.
But however, since
That's-
that time,
that's what
you've
this-
lived a little bit more life and
We
you
have.
more experience to add to the conversation.
But and you could make the argument that you said the Renaissance is the foundation. I would say that if anything, though, because I think Martin points it out and illustrates it very beautifully, we are almost in one of those dark ages that precedes a huge
Yeah,
rebirth.
Still recovering from the age of industrialized death.
Yeah.
To a large degree.
We are.
Excuse my ignorance. Talk more about what industrialized death is to you.
The application of the human ingenuity to destroy your neighbors. Again, World War I, World War II.
In a more efficient and effective way.
Yeah,
Ever increasingly such.
prior to essentially Napoleon, not to say wars weren't devastating, they could very well be, but they
The
didn't
local ones.
always. You didn't always have to mobilize the entire populace. But once you start to hit the Napoleonic era, the U.S. Civil War,
World War One in particular.
World War One in particular, but everything that leads up to even the Franco-Prussian War, in order to have success, you have to mobilize the entire populace.
See, my definition
Everybody's got to be on board because you need that industrial production to win. It's not just about, well, we got more guys than you.
Yeah,
We got more shells than you is the new thing.
when war became impersonal, and really that's even before Napoleon. When you get to the point where you can shoot at somebody, as opposed to that's across maybe only 50 yards at the beginning because the weapons weren't all that accurate. But when you move away from edged weapons, bladed weapons, to where you have to be
Arm's
eye to
length.
eye, arm's length, to where you can't even see the guy that you're shooting at. That makes it easier to industrialize death because death has become impersonal.
Yeah, it's like famine in Africa. It's way, way, way out there.
Yep.
I guess my industrial death actually builds off of yours to a more current situation where building everything faster, cheaper, mass production doesn't
Yep.
last long. Your quality, your artistic
Oh, yeah.
design of it,
Yeah.
it's all died away at this point. And I guess I'm just taking it further to the more modern point of it at
Yeah,
the moment.
No, you're right.
manufacturers expect that the consumer will want a new feature, so there's no reason to make anything that lasts because you want them to buy the new thing, so it has the new feature.
Yep. It's when you start out and your refrigerators last for 50 years, you do that because you think, well, you want to make the best product you can, and because your market is entirely everybody at that point, as opposed to just new homes and replacements, which is where we are now. So you have to have stuff that breaks down more often. So
Yeah, I mean
you can-
that's how you built a reputation in the marketplace and attracted market share was, well, we build the best. And now I think manufacturers feel like, well, we have the most features, we have the most
Yes.
cool stuff, we have the door you can see through, we have where your refrigerator talks to the internet, so we
Is that
want
not a
you
form of
churning.
creativity?
It is.
what
it
was that?
is.
Because you're
Is that not a form of creativity?
yes and no. It is in the sense that you are creating new things, new features, but the planned obsolescence,
There's a
the planned-
cynicism to that creativity.
almost sinister cynicism.
Well, it's not creativity for its own sake or for even making things better. It's for maximizing the income stream.
Yes, because the creativity is at the disposal
Yeah.
of
It is a
maximizing
function
income,
of, yes.
as opposed to true creativity. And yes, people are free to disagree with me. True creativity should always be put at the service of the human person, to
It is-
glorify God and man in
It
his
is
service.
inherently altruistic.
It should be. It doesn't. It's not to say that you can't make great art that isn't always altruistic.
Right.
I certainly will not say that, because you can use your skills in good ways and bad ways.
Of course.
But the ideal is that art uplifts.
I think that's exactly it. Yeah, you've got to. Why do it then? You know.
This.
That's right. The green. That's correct.
Green. Yes.
Yeah, when everything is a financial income stream, then the dignity and the sanctity of human life goes down immediately.
But aren't they just
That's not
taking
your
it?
line.
I mean, they just take advantage of what they think we want. I mean, a lot of people do. They want that newest, coolest thing.
Oh, they set a marketing scheme into effect so strong that
Yeah.
they change our mind to
I mean,
think that's what
you know-
we want,
you know,
when
there
we never
are-
wanted it to begin with.
Yeah, I mean, there are
Yes.
people that go, "Hey, that's super cool. I'll put my refrigerator on the internet."
Well, we mentioned the
Why?
impersonality of death, or the removal of death, but I think if we go back to talking about the income stream, I think we can see that in modern day finances versus just military. We have monopolies forming with huge mega corporations controlling, I think it's
Everything.
like 10 major companies run like 90% of the U.S. economy.
Yeah,
And-
because there are just a handful of companies that control all of our food, different handful that control all of our
Automotive.
our beverages, whether they be alcoholic or not.
Our entertainment.
And in
Our
their
entertainment.
production and manufacturing, they're buying the cheapest labor they can and not concerning themselves about the integrity of the worker, but how cheap they can buy it.
Exactly.
And that's causing the middle class in this country to disappear.
It is shrinking. Yes, it has shrunk quite a bit. This industrialization of death, a little bit off of the idea of it's supposed to be a
No.
Renaissance art, but where we have gotten because of
It's the preamble to a new Renaissance.
it is yes, but it is like that cycle that we just talked about. About hard times make good men make however that went.
Yeah.
How did it go? Good men make
Good times make soft men make rough times make hard men make good times.
Okay. So you can start anywhere in that
Yeah.
cycle. And we are at, I think, the soft men make hard times currently,
I think we've
And-
passed it, yes.
because we've partaken of the fruit of the Renaissance and the ages after, which is really just different styles
Yeah.
of creativity and knowledge and wealth creation, to where it is no longer done for knowledge, and art is almost never done for the sake of knowledge and art anymore.
It's done for profitability.
It's done for profitability. And that's not to say that I think that,
I mean,
that
even
artists shouldn't get paid for their work.
Yeah, even
because they
Renaissance
should.
artists wanted to get paid.
They did. That's the whole.
I mean, Michelangelo went to Julius and said, "Yo, pony up, dog."
Exactly. That's exactly.
I
What
don't
was
think he
gonna
used
say.
those words, but yeah.
No, well, it was in Italian, but essentially, yes. But yeah, I mean, Lorenzo, he was the great patron of the arts. It was government funding of the arts. I mean,
Yeah, I
literally.
mean, like we said right at the beginning, a big fuel of this is that all of a sudden there's money.
Watch the little demon there. She'll be giving Buttons a push. That's Mazakine, our youngest cat out here at the farm.
She's about to step on the Taz cam, and so if you hear random sounds, it's her fault.
So yes, cats.
She's so much bolder than she was a few months ago.
Oh, yeah, she's growing up. She's in
Yeah.
a terrible twos the way we look at it at early teenage years now.
Come here, sweet pop.
So, anyways, the Renaissance led to some great times, artistically, architecturally. I mean, good Lord, look at St. Peter's. As far
Yeah,
as
Bernini created, I think he did the plaza and
Michelangelo, I think, did the portico, the columns. Or did he do the roof, the dome? I forget.
he did the dome. I think it was Bernini who did all the outside.
Yes, yes. So there are multiple great artists that worked on that. Again, they got paid, and they wanted to get paid, but they still. I mean, look at what
They
what
did
was
have
created.
a feeling that they were contributing to something huge.
Yes. Whereas now, even art and architecture has become industrialized. Especially architecture has become industrialized.
Oh, and Yeah,
It is-
brutalist architecture. Like,
It is very
why?
much
Why?
function over form.
Kind of like gold plate in the White House.
No, kind of like the Obama Library.
Oh, yes, that thing's an
It's-
abomination.
It's horrid.
Is that in Illinois?
Abomination, not abomination.
Yeah, it's going to be in Chicago, and it looks like a jail.
Huh.
It is.
I mean,
It's like concrete block.
Yeah,
I haven't seen anything on that.
it's Orwellian. It looks like the Ministry of Truth or something.
Is what important is the building or what the building contains?
No,
It's
the
both. It's
building-
supposed
the
to be
building,
both.
Yeah.
It's
Just,
supposed
just
to be
because
both.
someone recently went to a presidential library. Who was that? I forget.
Yeah, so as a contrast, the Reagan Library is gorgeous. It is all sort of one floor laid out like a hacienda style, Southern California, which is
Very
what,
Reagan-esque.
what Reagan loved.
Yeah.
So it is like a giant ranch house, and it is perched on a beautiful hillside. And I mean I get it. Obama is more of a city person, and there's not a thing wrong with that at all. And to want it to be in a city and hope that construction creates jobs in that town and everything.
Sure, that's part of it.
But it's just wow, it's ugly.
So is it leaning more towards the industrial design type?
Oh,
thing that you
absolutely.
Yeah,
see these
it's
days. that
like a
I cannot
three-
stand that industrial design.
It's
I
like a
mean,
3-story concrete block or box,
yeah.
and that's not
Not
at
even
right
a whole lot of
angles.
glass.
Yeah, there's almost no glass, and it's not even like at right angles or anything. It's just
Yeah, it's very
like,
odd.
what in the hell?
So, contrast just somebody in our lifetime, Frank Lloyd Wright.
Yeah.
You can make an argument. Has some very industrial type designs, but still far more organic and
Yeah,
artistic.
he looked to
than that.
integrate. He looked to integrate industrial shapes into a natural setting.
Yes, yes.
Gorgeous. I love looking.
Oh yeah,
at
Frank Lloyd Wright is just
houses.
phenomenal.
Yeah.
And so I just I think we really got rabbit holed here, but I love this idea because it's a different take on some things we've talked about before. Brother Andre is really just nailed
Yeah.
this with that quote about hard men make good time, so on and so on.
Hard men, good times, soft men,
Soft men, hard times. Yeah. Because we've talked many times about how whether or not American culture, Western culture, is in decline and why. I have likened it to the end of the Roman Empire. When we did our series on Rome, I very much came down on the side of we are Rome at the end of its life is where we are at. It's not necessarily to say we are going forward to the same destination, but we are at a pivot point to where we could. And which is very much because
There's
in
two
this-
ways to look
this-
at the circle. We could either be at the end of the decline or at the beginning of the rise.
right. But sometimes though that decline lasts a really long time, like it did in between 500 and 1,000. Yeah, in those centuries. Because I go with, if you want to call things, and again we've talked before, I don't like the dark ages, but if the first half of the so-called Middle Ages, the dark period, is the darkest. That's when everybody was trying to figure out how to deal with the fallout of the fall of Rome.
How do we build How do we build roads? How do we bring water to our town?
Right.
Kind of that knowledge is not out there.
And
Right.
and when you're worried about subsistence, you don't have time to share knowledge. Once we figure that out, we're back into the Renaissance.
Yes.
Which is 1,000 years.
And so, we are, and you can certainly look at European history. You can see, especially the 17th century is one of those low points because it's constant religious warfare. Thank you, Martin Luther, and John Calvin, and Zwingli, and
And the
few others.
Pope can do no wrong.
I mean, look, dude.
As somebody once
mean-
said about St. Peter's Basilica, he said, it's gorgeous, and all it cost us was Northern Europe.
Just gotta kind of, if you fix the indulgences thing, then you take all of the wind out of Luther's sails.
we already did that.
You wouldn't do it.
Well, it was too late. Well, in a way, Martin Luther is emblematic, though, of the Renaissance. And from my perspective, not the good aspect of it, because he was able to to go down these new paths that a century earlier would have been unthinkable.
Yeah.
As far as criticizing the church. Now, part of that is the rise of rulers who were less willing to kowtow to the church, because, as I've said, the Protestant rebellion is less a religious event as it is
a political
socio-political event, wanting to throw off the yoke of the church.
Thank you, Henry VIII.
Can I put a bow on this, and we'll
I was
start
going
to
to say it's
wrap
about
up?
time to bring this to a full circle
I
here
say I
today.
think we've done this for a good
Yes.
hour plus. So
Hour and a half.
Hour and 20 minutes.
yeah, so I'll go
It's
right
a short episode for
right
us.
back to Professor Herman's The Cave and the Light, because again he's hitting right on these topics of the idea of, that there's a point where you hit like William of Ockham and these other philosophers and what they're doing, and it becomes very influential to the political aspect of life in Europe, and the idea of, hey, I'm kind of tired of bowing my head to this dude in Rome. I run this joint, and that's where
As my
you get
pastor
to.
puts it, it is individualism run amok,
Well, and it's
which is where we are today.
right. Again, it's this tension between a place like Florence trying to recognize the individual worth of each citizen versus this Platonic ideal of there ought to be this one guy running the whole joint, this benevolent dictator and all that. What's the ideal form of government? And there were people shaking off this idea that the ideal form of government was there's this dude in Rome that tells us what to do.
Well, to be fair, when you get to the beginning of the Renaissance, that dude in Rome wasn't telling a whole lot of people what to do.
yeah.
I mean, seriously.
Yeah, but it's still a notion that the political power should be secondary to
It
the
is-
theological power.
Yes, basically it's secular rulers wanting to have the final say
Yeah,
over everything,
Yeah.
not just secular matters. Because at the time, there was no difference between secular and
Yeah.
theological matters.
Yeah.
That's the whole point of the 30 Years' War, is that, is your ruler going to decide what religion everybody is or not?
yeah.
I mean, that's essentially
Or do you get to decide
or
on
do
your
you
own?
get to decide? Yeah.
And this tolerance and stuff. So
All right.
We
final
tolerate
thoughts.
people, not ideas. That would be where the church falls on toleration.
yeah,
We tolerate people, not ideas. So we do have to come to the end of this. This has been a fascinating discussion. I wish we could go longer on this because we hardly even touched on the art.
this really
Don't say we can't get back to part 2 later on.
That is most
Yeah.
certainly true.
this really felt like the Algonquin Roundtable episode kind of thing. here.
Yeah.
We
Well,
really
it's
did-
what we do
you did
best.
Good.
Yeah,
You guys, especially Brother Andre, I really like what he kicked in. It was terrific. So
Yeah,
but you
that
did a
was
great job, Robert.
That was phenomenal. I really wish we could have gone down more in that because I have so many thoughts swirling around in my head about where we are now.
Just like Hedy Lamar.
Just like Eddie Lamar.
And I'd like to touch back on too,
Headley.
the different
That's Headley.
Renaissances, not just
Yes.
what we call the Renaissance that I brought
Exactly.
up too earlier.
Yes, because you pointed out, there are cycles, and for every dip, there's got to be a rise. Sometimes the dips just go a lot deeper, and I think we're on that deeper dip.
And
curve.
the rises last equally long.
Hopefully, yes. All right, so Francis, buddy, what's next?
We're going to do some quotations next time, Code of Honor episode. Cajun's already kind of laid out the one that we're going to be mulling over, and because we're out here at the Lovely Ranch for these episodes. So I don't know where we're going to go, but I tell you, it's always fun. So make sure that you're here. Join us.
We hope you enjoyed another pointless discussion of eternal questions. Remember, new episodes drop every second and fourth Friday at 6 a.m. Eastern, just in time for your morning commute. And every fifth Friday, we drop a special Hoopajube episode. Spread the word we are on all the major platforms, and leave us a review. That helps others find us. We're also on Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube, as well as our website, snakesandotters.com. Join us next time. Same snake time, same otter channel.